dig in with our panel. Steve Forbes, Jim LeCamp, Peter Schiff, Jerry Boyer, and a very aggressive Art Laffer tonight at the top of his game. He is rushing net and hitting volleys for winners. All right, Steve Forbes, to you. Obama was very optimistic and positive last night. Let us give credit where credit is due. And yet, Steve, since his election, stocks have plunged. Now, we are down 15% year-to-date on the broad average, 51% since the peaks last October in 2007. Steve Forbes, is there hope for the American stock market? Is there hope for the U.S. economy?
Well, you can see with the stock market, it is raring to go up. And in terms of the economy, there's activity ready to be undertaken. The three things that immediately have to be done, I think, Larry, is in terms of the banking sector, financial sector, is truly get rid of this mark-to-market, which is artificially hurting bank capital. They go back to the rules they had in the past, and the people, private sector, would put money into the banks that they didn't think was going into a black hole. Restore the uptick rule on short trading. And for the Federal Reserve, they should announce they're going to aggressively buy mortgage-backed securities, really get those mortgages moving again. You do that, you'll see this market go up quickly 2,000 to 3,000 points.
Steve Forbes, on the Fed buying mortgage-backed securities, somehow this doesn't sound like you. This sounds like you're saying the government has control of long-term interest rates. Pardon my skepticism, my old friend.
Look, the rates may be low now, but in terms of people trying to refinance their mortgages, I'm glad B of A, Bank of America, is hiring people to do it. But the fact of the matter is it's still very hard to refinance a mortgage. Banks are still reluctant to lend. The financial system is not working the way it should. That's the only thing stopping a big market rally and people starting to take risks again. And again, with you have that mark-to-market there, all bank capital is at risk. You see it with the life insurance companies. You put money in, it goes into a black hole. As you know, if we'd had that 20 years ago, most of the major commercial banks in this country would have gone under in the last banking crisis.
All right, insurance companies got pounded today because several of them suspended their dividends or cut their dividends. Peter Schiff, same question to you. Mr. Obama was very positive last night. He had a much more optimistic tone. I give him credit for that. He's the only president we have. Nonetheless, stocks fell at the opening today, and they wound up down again. It's been a bad year. It's been a bad 18 months. Peter Schiff, is there any hope for the American stock market and the economy?
Look, there's always hope, but, Larry, it is a bear market, so stocks are going to be falling more often than they're rising. But, you know, I wanted to say something real quick. It's been a long time since I've shared a panel with Art Laffer, and I'm pleased to say I agree with everything he said in the last segment 100%. I was almost cheerleading him in the background there on inflation. And unfortunately, inflation is not going to be good for the U.S. economy. It's not going to be good for the U.S. stock market. And, you know, we're talking about mortgage lending. I mean, why would banks want to lend? It's still extremely risky, even if they have the capital, to loan it out on real estate. Real estate is still overvalued. There's a lot of risk. The government is out there trying to abrogate contracts, trying to find ways to let people, you know, out of their mortgages. Interest rates are still way too low, considering how much inflation the government is creating. Why anybody would want to loan anybody money to refinance a mortgage is beyond me.
By the way, Steve Forbes, you can buy as many mortgage-backed securities as you want, but Obama supports the so-called bankruptcy judge mortgage cramdown, which means I would think that people are going to withhold mortgage money from the market because they won't believe any of the contractual obligations. And no matter how much bonds the Fed buys, they're going to jack up interest rates. Investors know that judges may overturn contracts, the rule of law, the Magna Carta, and interest rates are going to go up, Steve Forbes. What do you make of that?
Repeal the Constitution while they're at it.
Yeah.
No, the fact of the matter is, I think if the Federal Reserve did what it promised to do last November and aggressively buy mortgage-backed securities and get that market really liquid again, this cram down isn't going to pass Congress. It's highly unpopular.
But why would you want them to do that?
Like it.
Steve,
what?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Go ahead, Art.
The Fed and the government has now guaranteed $5.5 trillion worth of mortgages through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and it crashes even further. I mean, getting the government into the mortgage market's not going to solve this problem. It's just going to make it worse. Who wants to lend when the government's giving away money to mortgages and bailing out people who had too much leverage and who didn't deserve to buy the house they bought?
No, what we're talking about here, Art and Larry, is enabling people to refinance their mortgages. These are sound customers. These are people who are still solvent.
Steve,
Allow
let
them
the
to
market
refinance
determine
at
who's a
5%.
sound customer.
Steve Forbes,
Let the
do you
market make-
support Obama's mortgage rescue plan? You know, Steve Forbes, this is the closest I've ever heard you to endorsing a big government
Me too,
rescue
Steve.
plan.
I'm
It
shocked.
is not
I'm shocked.
a bailout. Larry, let's get real. Let's get real.
We're making history tonight.
Let's get real. We are still in a deflation. Yes, inflation's a risk down the road, but velocity is dead right now. And you got to get those markets. The Fed's the only one that can provide liquidity.
No, it can't.
The Fed has been reducing liquidity, reducing its balance sheet since December. It's perverse.
The monetary
Steve,
base
all
is
the
through
Fed
the
can give us
ceiling,
is
Steve.
inflation.
I gotta get.
And it's a difference between buying treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. Treasuries is useless, and mortgage-backed securities get the market moving again. They killed the market. They got to revive it.
All right,
Steve, what market moving?
I got to get other people in here. Steve Forbes, who would have qualified for Obama's Secretary of Commerce, but Mr. Obama appointed the governor of the state of Washington. No, this is all fascinating. This is what happens during bad periods. Jerry Boyer, I'm going to leave it to you to make a bullish case. And there are bullish things, Jerry, on energy and money creation, and you know them better than I know them. Can you counter this Peter Schiff pessimism and maybe even Steve Forbes' newfound love for government solutions?
The bullish case is that markets are valued partly on the policy direction, but largely on uncertainty. And once Obama makes clear what his policies are going to be, and they're going to be in the wrong direction, we at least have a set group of rules that we can plan under. So right now, a lot of